Welcome to Oregon Voters Digest, the program that brings forward the social and political issues that are important to people living here in the Pacific Northwest. And now, your host, Bruce Broussard.
Election 24. By George, we got a few more days left when we'll finally know the outcomes of the present elections. Folks are busy knocking on doors and playing politics and getting ads out there and communicating with, etc. Their positioning as far as what's going to get them the vantage point of getting the votes and getting the nods. And I might add that just on that front end, in terms of what type of area that we are in. One, this is and I'm just going to put it out this with kind of a TikTok kind of a comment. This is the only time you can lie, and you can say anything what you say on your mind when you're running for office. And the people who are looking at you, especially from the media standpoint, they can take snaps at you too. Okay, you got me? And a lot of times, depending upon what your resume is, most cases the candidates do not tend to talk to the history of their resumes. It's kind of like a current, everything nice about them, and everything about what can they think that would influence the voter to vote for them. You know what I mean? And then when it comes out like now, the media in many ways will go to the negatives first, and that was interesting. And in all due respect, it takes away from the campaign, because the person who shares the information, as far as the candidates are concerned, normally they're not going to say anything negative about themselves. You got me? And so that was a historical piece. And whether there was a crime committed or this, that, and the other, if you didn't get caught, it didn't appear. If you did get caught, you went through the system. And at the end of that system day, the judge will say you're guilty or you're not guilty. And so that's the setting, if you will, of a person's history. But as far as I'm concerned, we're looking for leadership. Well, the residents and voters of the area, of any area of voting, are basically looking for folks that were employees, if you will, who are really the folks who are running for office. All right, we're looking for employees that will take the lead and deal with the issues that are on our mind that are current. That's kind of like what the electorate's all about. Unfortunately, sometimes people get a little confused in terms of who is the employer and who's the employee. And many candidates, some of the candidates think that they are employers. And then the so-called voters are employees. Well, that's not the case. And a lot of times they will make mention about the employers by saying the government can't tell you what to do. Well, government is that's what this form of government is all about. It's the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's a fact. You got me? That's bottom line. That's the definition of the voting public, if you will. It is the government. And too often we take that. A lot of times candidates will take that and play around with it and blame the government. The same people who are looking at hiring them. And so we want to just kind of throw out a couple of those points. And then from a media standpoint, they too will take on the whole issue of basically citing certain negatives that will take away from the person who sign on the dotted line and say, I'm running for office, I'm running for an employee. And they do things like if you run maybe a couple of times or 3 times, they call you a perennial. And that's ridiculous. No, it's not about ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, you can run 50 times. But when you sign the document to run for office, you are signing one time at that present time. And I think that it's taking away, because sometimes you'll miss some real nice. Well, you're missing the ideas. Because if that person is carrying a good idea and they haven't shot or killed anyone, you got my point, then bang, let the person run for office. And maybe another corrective way of doing it would be to say, maybe our next time around, maybe the discussion needs to be thrown on the table that the application process for a person wanting to run for office, the question should be asked in the application process. Do you have? What about your history up to a certain point? If you committed something, blah blah blah, something to the effect. If you committed something that you think that might be pertinent in your selection, whatever, then cite it. You can sign blah 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 routine according to that way, and then from the media standpoint, I think that if a person hasn't been committed, haven't shot anyone or this, that, and the other, or committed a major crime, depending upon what crime it is, a felony or something like that, then boom, stay away from trying to get the little penal stuff, and then in talking strictly on the front end of the election here, we're going through candidates' rebuttals and things of that nature with the various media, and you saw with the mayoral action. It's big now with this ideas of this new form of government. I mean, we're just going into that, so we need all as many positive as we can to get people involved with knowing what's going on. Because they've got to vote in this new form. That's a whole different ball game, and people are confused on that deal. Hard to digest. Got me. And the other thing is that I noticed that in the candidates' interviews, the ones, let's say the mayor, for instance, they were talking about two of the candidates. They were talking about their history of of tickets and things of that nature. I think Rubio was one, and this and the other. But as far as I'm concerned, she paid the tickets. And she paid the tickets, she paid the tickets. Now, if she didn't pay the tickets, it's a different ballgame. But if they were able to identify that when she filed, she would list the ones that she didn't pay. But that would have been a motivation to get it paid. See what I'm saying? So if she's paid the ticket, she's paid the ticket. Let's focus on the issues that we, the public, i.e. the employers, have cited, and we've all agreed that these are the major, like they said, the homeless situation, the drug situation. Those are major issues, and in fact, they should make it a point to cite that in the application form. You know what I mean? In the application form, to say, well, these are the 4 issues, and we'd like for you to respond in one paragraph or something like that in your application process. When you do it that way. Now, it would not be shared with the public until all candidates have applied. Because we don't need this other pleasurism aspect of it. Folks will use this, that, and other. Well, that can come in the debates. You got me, when they're going through the question or whatever. So the media need to know that. They need to know. Just don't jump on areas in there, because in all due respect, and that keeps the personality situation out. Because a lot of times, the folks who are the journalists, the media, they have problems too. And they've got they may not like you because of your color, your skin, because you're a male as opposed to a female, you're not gay or something of that nature, and so consequently you come up there and you make a statement about, and if that's an issue, whether it be about gay or whatever, all of a sudden, guess what? If you don't support that, then guess what? You get the negative hit in the media. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to make sure we throw those things out, because it's a very important piece. Because as I looked at, and I'm using it as an example of the whole idea of, I'm using the Willamette Week, but they have a kind of a bent on basically taking pot shots. That's just the nature of what they do. You got me? And I'm just using. I mean, I'm using this particular issue. This issue here is. I'm got the date here. 10/23. Yeah, the 23rd.
The last Wednesday.
The last Wednesday, and this is the particular issue right here. If you got one, you may want to get one to show you an example, because one, they talked about the whole issue with the funny money thing. But it was a legitimate organization. I mean, why funny money? The fact of the matter is, it was a way for if a person was in fear of knocking on doors or trying to ask for the money and this, but they've got some good ideas. This company came in and provided you the, i.e. going out and getting the necessary qualifications for that small donor piece. Because it takes money to run. In fact, it takes money to put ads in this paper. You see what I'm saying? They don't do that for free.
No.
Okay, you know what I'm saying? So they talked about the funny money, and see that to me was not a. And they put the photos of people who participated. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, they got Keith Wilson there. They got Maureen Glickman, Marnie Glickman, and Chris Henry. And in each one of those individuals, they sort of identified specific things about themselves, about them, which I thought was interesting, which it shouldn't be. They talked about Harney because he's been Henry because he's been running a number of times. Well, hey, so far, okay, fine. He's OJT. He's trying to learn what's going down because you can't immediately jump in that seat overnight thinking that you're going to do it all.
That's a very interesting point because I never dealt in that type of thing. And then when the first time they come out with that free money,
right,
there were several scammers real big time that got caught.
Right.
And then this article here explains it in detail how they hired people to go out and get this money, and sometimes they spent more money than what they got.
Yeah.
But the deal is, it's the bigger prize is what they were really after.
Exactly.
And so this is really an eye opener, because this really gets in detail of how some of these people, how they did it, because some of them they spent more than what they collected. But the deal is, when they turned that money and those names in, they got a real big prize.
Yeah, exactly.
So
9-1. Yeah, a 9-1 thing, and you're right about that. Because the other thing about that whole piece, you think, what was the intent of it to begin with? The intent, I thought, was to get you to go in and meet the voters.
You to do that,
knocking on the door. You knock on the door and you talk to them, and if they don't feel good about what, you don't get the $5. You would spend $5 to $20 or something like that. You won't get it. But if you talk to an issue that resonate with that particular voter, then they'll possibly give you the $5.
Yeah. A funny thing that is, one of the fellas running in District 4, I sent him $5 cash.
Right.
And that worked pretty good. Then the deal is, he actually had it in paper, so he sent me back this laundry list I had to fill out. If I'd have given him a check, or I had given him the bucks and filled out the form, it would have been a fraction of the paperwork I had to fill out after the fact.
Jesus Christ. And you think about that form, a lot of times people are a little sketchy, especially under today's criteria of sharing their Social Security and all that number, and their address and phone number. I mean, we're in a new age now. We all have our private technology, the phones and stuff, and people are getting hacked, and there's a fear of giving information.
True. And the deal is, that say that if it's, well, what do you mean? I got to fill this thing out, and the deal is, you're the other party, and I don't want my friends in my party to know I'm helping somebody from the other party.
Right.
That's kind of a big touchy deal. See?
Right.
And but I would encourage people to get this issue, because this really puts it right there on the page. And you're talking about, about 8.5, 12 inches of newsprint with 3 pictures. They really give you a big idea on how this thing could be manipulated.
Right. Well, like I said, this is a very interesting article, and like I said, but my point is, the Willamette Week has a tendency to do those kinds of things. But the other media do also too. The Oregonian was doing something like that, and the Tribune was doing something like that. Kind of taking these personal issues.
Yeah, but that's the clearest one I've seen.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is a real good one, and that was a business. But like I said, if you
and the title's right too. Funny money.
Funny money. But even then, it's the people's money.
It's our money.
It's our money. So it's not funny money. It's serious money.
Yeah.
Because in fact, I can't afford it. We can't afford it. We'll be getting you on the second half. Okay. But anyway, I want to make sure we touch bases on this media piece, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that, because we're going to be getting into the candidates and talking about how they're profiled in this whole piece aspect of it. So. But what I wanted to start with is again sharing with the viewing audience. Like I said, we've got our ballots and things of that nature, and people are still campaigning quite a bit. So we're using the format to kind of educate the voting public and also educating those individuals that are basically profiling them,
Yeah.
like the media, letting the folks know just what they're doing, which can be somewhat confusing and biased, and somewhat biased. So we're educating the public now at this point in time, and then later on we'll probably talk about endorsements. We're going to be talking about endorsement of the candidates and talking about the issues at hand and who have identified with the issues and who hasn't done it. And then at the end of the day, we're going to talk about specifically identifying those folks and maybe taking a poll between you and Bob Williams and myself, and we're just going to kind of endorse. And then see what the results may be from the national perspective to the local perspective. But like so one of those educational items that we'd like to talk about is that is the history of the area. We're talking about Portland, Oregon per se, and again I still think it's an issue because the whole issue of race has been a problem and still is on the table. And a lot of times there's a fear for folks not wanting to talk about that. I mean, and here in Portland, we had a kind of an initiation of the whole issue of being a little bit more progressive, and it was back during the shipyard days. And John and I are going to talk about this a little bit, and he happened to have been here during that particular time, and how they reacted to the labor force on the shipyard, and it was a divide thing. But bottom line, it was a working class, and many of those people were people of color, and this, that, and the other, and that was interesting. And so what we're going to do, we're going to talk about that a little bit and see where it is today. Now we had started something, and then all of a sudden we made an effort, if you will, to take it to the next level. When the ships were not in the building, the war was over, and all of a sudden these folks were there, and then all of a sudden these folks basically dispersed. Some went back home, but some stayed. That was very progressive. And then there was an attempt during the Vicatia administration, who made an effort to put together a legislative district and identified it as the I quote black district, sort of, which was District 18, and they used the form of government of the every 10 years that goes back to a review, and they changed the line. I don't know what that process is called.
Oh, the census and then the redistribution.
The redistribution
stuff, yeah.
Right, exactly. And they did that. And then that was great. That was a progressive thing. And this wasn't a black district. It was a district where a number of the residents were black.
Yeah.
It were black. And that was a good thing. That was another part. And so that was good. But for some strange reason, it wasn't a continuation. It cut itself off because many of the federal dollars were identified that way, because blacks were kind of like the leading force, talking to the whole issue of set-aside program, affirmative action, and things of that nature, and those dollars always went to that place for disbursement,
right, in
District 18. But then at the same time, there was then the politics of it, as far as the renewal 10 years afterwards. All of a sudden, a lot of the money folks. You're talking about money now. See, it was kind of, we need to change the format here because I can't get the money over here for renewal money and all that other good stuff. So they did away with it.
Yeah, a point of interest. They made that issue that district for the blacks. They also made it a district down the valley for the Latinos and the Mexicans. See, so it's not just the one point in the state that happened. And then a few things happened in the.
But how did they do that, John? Did they do it at the same? Did they do the same thing as far as a district is concerned?
They did the redistricting, and they talk about the Republicans and all are gerrymandering. Well, the deal is here in Oregon, they did some real gerrymandering too. So. And in fact, they were really upset in the Latino district because it had a bunch of Latinos running for that office, and one white person won the seat, and they were really jacked out of shape. See, and then Bill McCoy, when he was a state senator, a white fellow signed up against him, and Bill McCoy died. Well, then the powers that be wanted this guy to drop out so they could appoint a guy that would be, black woman, black.
Right.
And anyway, he says, if you wanted a job, you should have run for it.
Mm-hmm.
And he ran, and he won that, of course, unopposed. And the next time he ran, and some people run against him, and he got reelected. And the third time, he didn't. He'd had enough and didn't run for reelection. And then a black lady got in. I forget her name.
Well, isn't that the Lou Frederick seat now?
No. Lou Frederick's.
That was
if you look on, he's higher on the map, and he was in Senate District 22. See, and you'd actually have to have a map in front of you to be able to point that out. But say this is 18, but the deal is Lou Fredericks is up here in 22.
Yeah, but still, no. A senatorial district is 2 representative seats.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. But when 18 got in, that was inclusive of his deal. See, one of his his district 18 was 18.
No, because 18 was down along Williams Avenue, and
that was 18.
State was down there.
But the senatorial seat. Who was that senatorial seat? That's where I'm coming from.
Well, I don't remember the numbers at that time, but the deal is, and they have jockeyed the numbers around, but the deal is that Lou Fredericks is in Senate District 22, and that's up towards the border, see, which is St. John's and something else, and but where the
okay, we'll just say
18 was. That was down in Williams Avenue and Mississippi and all that area there. And so it was. And Bill McCoy was he was a
just
senator.
the other way around. Yeah, he was a senator on that end.
Yeah, and so there was two spots for representatives, and then one spot for the senator. And the deal is just the guy running against him, Bill McCoy, suddenly died. And anyway, the guy wouldn't get out of the way. And anyway, he served 2 terms, got out, and then. Might have been Gordley that might have became the senator. Right? Don't quote me that for that, but then the senator in that area, I believe, was a black woman. See,
Gordley was a senator, and it could have been her seat. I'm still kind of getting a feel for looking, because it was kind of like in the middle there. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because 18 was carved out.
Yeah.
It was carved out for the black community, so to speak. That was there specifically for that.
Yeah, and the deal is that the important part to remember, though, is that they say something bad about that is just, that wasn't the only place, because they did it down the valley for the Latinos and
But wasn't that Hillsborough up in that area, that kind of a deal?
Oh, no, it was down... it was right down I-5 someplace down there, so it wasn't in Hillsborough.
Okay.
Hillsborough wasn't quite that much Latino at the time.
Okay. But my point is that they did not make it a big to-do about, and during that particular time, because when 18 was put together, that was the point person for the minorities for the state of Oregon.
And I think the model cities was going on and all that time.
Yeah, that was 18.
And all that,
that was 18. But that was a big deal. That was 83 up in that area. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but my point is that they were responding to the whole issue of the diversity, for the diversity piece, and it was happening. But most important, the funding source was huge, and a lot of the so-called folks, in all due respect, contractors and whatever, were opposed to the idea.
Yeah. Well, there were some people says, well, they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. No, because the people that got into the legislature, they wanted things to work for the people. It basically, a rising tide lifts all boats, and so the deal is, you take somebody that's a senator or representative, and they want things to work better for the people, and usually the difference in religion or skin color or ethnicity isn't that great, because what they want to do is the right thing. Better schools and better safety.
I'm agreeing with you. With important public school, that was another reason why they did 18.
Yeah.
Because Portland Public School, I mean, there was a major failure as far as blacks were concerned, and folks were concerned about that piece aspect of it, and the monies, because there was highway construction, there was big money, because there was a lot of affirmative action in federal highway administration. But again, like I said, the dollars went to that area, but a lot of times a lot of the contractors outside of that area basically were upset about the fact they couldn't have access to that money. Okay, and so, but my point is that the discussions were being held, and so consequently, many things were happening. For instance, like the county and the city, all of a sudden they came up with their list. We as a result of that, we came up with a one list of all listed minorities throughout the state of Oregon. That was as a result of 18. The politics of 18, because folks got involved with it and made sure that the city wasn't doing the so-called affirmative action for contractors, and the county. They had two separate deals, but they came up with a state to state. All of a sudden, they put it all under one roof. But that was all as a result of District 18. And the point I'm making is that we just want to share that with the folks who are running for office to now, well, just like yourself, you just happen to know more of this, because that's one of the reasons why we have you on the show quite a bit, because you talk, you understand what that's all about, and it's very, very important. And and then the other situation was the whole issue with Vanport. A lot of times people talk about Vanport like it was a black entity, but that's not it wasn't the case.
There's white people and black people, because big early part of the war, my mom, dad, my sister, my oldest sister, and myself, because the two younger ones weren't born yet. We were there in Vanport, and they built those places because they're hauling people in from all over, especially from the south, and a lot of those families, they had 10, 12 kids. They had great big bedrooms in them. And I talked to some people later who says, actually, room-wise, he says that they never had it better than being in Vanport or in Giles Lake, because the rooms for the kids were really huge. They had bathtubs instead of showers, and they had coal heat. And in fact, in Giles Lake, they heated the whole place out of the kitchen stove.
Right.
And so the deal is, we had coal, and we had
that was for wood, and that was for both entities.
And the Presto logs come along, and the briquettes come along all at that time. So I was there in Giles Lake when all that stuff come along and all that changed. So and the Presto logs and the briquettes came after the war. Well, I was living in Giles Lake, so then there was all four of us kids and the parents.
Now the education was it integrated at that point in time?
Okay.
In some cases,
I didn't know that at the time. Didn't know that. Vanport was segregated.
Okay. And first it was segregated.
And the deal is in Giles Lake. By then I knew
that was the white. That was the white section.
Yeah. Okay. The deal is, in Giles Lake, it was segregated to begin with, and because the white section was next to St. Helens Road, and the black section was over there next to the river.
Okay.
And then in 1948, when you had that flood, a lot of people had moved out, and so they have vacancies. So they're looking for places for people out of Vanport to move to. They'd show up, and what do you need? A 1, 2, or 3 bedroom place, and they hand it to you. So my family lived in a fourplex, one level fourplex, and so and we lived in one of the middle ones, and the end ones were 1 bedrooms, and the middle ones were 3 bedrooms, and so we ended up with a black lady living in on the end there.
So she was in the 1 bedroom.
In 1 bedroom.
Yeah, so they had the blacks in one, and the whites were in the
and then it was 3 bedroom, and then the next was had a black family move into the 3 bedroom.
Okay, good.
And then a white family into to the end, and then it shuffled around there. And the deal is that because people were looking they needed a place
for the kids
to do, and they were under such a pressure, they didn't care whether you're white or black, because white people ended up in the black area and black people ended up in the white area, and so mixed up. And one of the things I remember down at the recreation center, we used to hear all of our fathers talking about, after that horrible war, about having things, smooth out and be better for the families, because if they want things better for themselves and for the families and for society.
Right.
And you can close your eyes, you couldn't tell who's talking, but the deal is the message was the same. Things have got to get better.
And the reason why we're spending so much time on this particular piece is because that was a kind of a start of an integration type of deal.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was the integration part of it, and so all of a sudden, the flood came.
Yeah, the flood changed that, and then
changed the whole concept.
Yeah, and then they finally knocked down all of Giles Lake by 1952. So they started those two in 42 because the war started in December of 41, and so they had to have all this housing and stuff. And in fact, the interesting thing is, my dad worked in the shipyards, and I was with the Parks from 65 through 97, and I had a fellow working for me that before he got on full time, he had worked in the shipyards, and talking to him, and the deal is, it wasn't much safer in the 1970s and 80s than it was in the 1940s. And because I remember as a kid, they had a place explode, and it showed people hanging from the rafters, and the only thing they had left on was their boots and sometimes their helmets, and everything was just crispy, and it's, safety was an afterthought because it was production, and they overrode safety, and they had a lot of serious accidents. But the thing is that this, but like I said, my dad worked in the shipyards until he got drafted. So, and then the deal is, we moved to live with an aunt in Southeast, and then after the war, we moved to Giles Lake, and then
now, Giles
1940,
Lake, yeah, Giles Lake. Now that community is like that's St. John.
It was like St. John's.
Like St. John.
They had over there close to the river. The buildings were mostly like at Vanport, and the housings next to the St. Helens Road. They were different, but they still had. Mine was a fourplex, and then there's some around them that were eightplexes. They were like a fourplex except for double stack.
Right.
And but you heated your whole place basically off the kitchen stove.
And that was after the war, so to speak.
After the war, yeah.
Now, as far as the blacks were concerned, they didn't have a comparable situation. They just basically tried to find some homes. That's why they got in the Northeast corridor.
Okay, they were over there by the river. And I'd gone over and visited a couple times, and their houses looked like the same houses that they had built in Vanport.
Okay.
And they were heating their whole living area off the kitchen.
But after the war, what happens to them?
Well, Vanport was taken care of in 1948, and then they knocked down all of the housing in Giles Lake by 1952, because the original plot was to make that into an industrial area.
Right.
But the deal is World War II interrupted that because they had to have places for all these workers. And so most of them, a lot of them come up from the South, and they had big families. They might have 10, 12 kids, so they had to have great big bedrooms.
Okay, I'm understanding. That was during the war.
Yeah, but the places stayed the same, but the deal is they had plans of knocking it down. And I don't know what the progression was set to be, but the fact that you had the flood in 1948, and like I said, the people were starting to move out of those places, and there's vacancies in the Giles Lake area. So the people that were shuffled out of Vanport, they come over and they filled up all the places in Giles Lake. So it took them a little longer before they knocked it out, because they just started people moving, and then people are starting to move around in Giles Lake.
But I'm still making the point about the Giles Lake was the white section, so right?
Next to St. Helens.
I know, but
St.
I'm
Helens
just
Road.
that was the white.
That was white.
Right.
But next to the Willamette River was black.
And that was, when the flood came, that was wiped out. The Willamette River, both of them were.
No, just over at Vanport was wiped out.
Yeah.
So both areas were still there in Giles Lake was still there. And then the deal is when they came over, they filled up the houses, and then as they started moving out, they started knocking them down, and they started knocking them down more towards the river first. Then they knocked.
Which was the black area?
I think they knocked that down first.
Okay, the black area.
They had to fill it up with black and white people,
right.
And then the deal is people started moving out, and then some of them that were in the close to the river were moved over to the by St. Helens Road. In fact, we had some neighbors. Palmer was their name, and they had lived the entire war in an aluminum trailer house,
right.
And so they and that was close to Montgomery Ward's, and they knocked them out close, and then they moved them into the right next to St. Helens Road, and you kind of collapsed it, and so everything else except the part next to St. Helens Road was wiped out first, and then they booted us out as people moved out of the.
Did they just basically go into the communities then at that point in time? Was there accommodations to get them housed?
People were just moving out because they wanted out.
They wanted out.
And they did away with the draft, and so they come around and they checked with people in the Guard Reserve. They want to go back in, and my dad went back in 1950, and they bought a house out in southeast Portland.
I see.
And so, but people were moving out because there was housing and other places around town, and they were making, and a lot of them had GI Bill and stuff like that.
Right. But I guess I was looking at, like I say, we started talking about the whole issue of race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how it was progressive as a result of the shipbuilding yard aspect of it. And then I'm saying that after the war, and then we get right back to a certain degree. It was whether or not the city was going to be more progressive. Well, to a certain degree, there was a small piece with reference to the Northeast Corridor. That's what the 18 was all about. Because a few folks moved in that area. They were able to move in that area. It wasn't that a whole bunch of them, but a lot of folks just went back home, if you will. But anyway.
But some people went back to where
the progression. The progression was there. You know? It wasn't like just in the deep South or something like that. Totally. So. But I wanted to make sure that we share this with the voting public now about our history. And the new electorate that we got 3 commissioners per district is districtized. Districtized, and normally in district number 2, that's when all of that activity pretty well happened in district number 2. And so consequently, because we got 3 different we got 3 different commissioners, look at the number as far as the number of folks, blacks who are running. They are there too, at 2 running, and which is good. It's still a progression aspect of it. But I wanted to make sure but a lot of the voting public are from back east and this, that, and the other, and they're not familiar with that history. You got me? As far as the community, and a lot of times when you start talking about housing and stuff nowadays in the city of Portland or the state of Oregon, in fact all around the country for that matter, I mean the prices. Trying to get a house in the Portland area is not an easy task now. Got me? Yeah,
but another thing is for a lot of them why they want to stay is because they come out here and they from 42 to 45, and they would been through a few summers and winters here. Well, you didn't have the tornadoes and the hurricanes and all that, and the severe winters. I mean,
like now.
Yeah.
Like now.
Yeah, and the
Like
deal
now.
is,
They
my
come-
mother's family was from Norway, and they were settled in North Dakota, and
Mm-hmm.
so my grandfather come out for some reason, and when he went back, he says, "Pack, we're leaving."
Yeah, right.
Because and so this is the deal is a lot of those places people came from the Midwest and from the South and all, and we got one thing that was better was the weather. You had mild winters and not too bad of summers.
Again, like I'm saying, like now.
Yeah.
See, like now, and so there's no interest of folks. A lot of times, people, in all due respect, this whole issue of racism, whatever. That was a kind of that was an issue.
Yeah.
Where they were, and they moved as a result of to move here to the Pacific Northwest, and so consequently they didn't experience. They didn't have that experience of Vanport during that particular time. So consequently, the entity that was in fact progressive, which was District 18, was not of a concern with theirs. Theirs was to eliminate it and get rid of it, because that was kind of like the old city part of it too.
Well,
the town there.
A lot of those classmates of mine, sitting in class, and they talk about what they liked out here is they're fishing for the carp and the catfish.
Yeah.
Says they're plentiful out here, and says, and so they really liked it, and they could have boats and all kinds of things.
Yeah, right. Well, like I said, we wanted to share again with the voting public, because a majority of them who are living now in the Portland metro area were not original residents.
Correct. Yes.
They were not original residents, and since we were ahead of the game because of Vanport and this, that, and the other, you would think that we would have had a thriving community like an 18, and that just so happened that where a number of blacks were living there, but they were whites and blacks, and the majority of them in district right now, district number two or district 18 were white, if you understand me. But they understood the relationship between black and white. That's where I'm coming from, and it was the only entity within the state of Oregon that had that so-called gathering. You see what I'm saying? And so we just want to share that with those folks who are running for office in this new form of government, and at the same time what that history was all about. Because it's very important. You see, we could be the leading force in kind of sharing this with the rest of the country, but I thought it was a good point to let people know about that piece, because some of these folks are pretty well heeled, coming from, let's say, back east or California or whatever, and you got the monies, and anyway. So we want to make sure we shared that with you, and then you can take that and vote accordingly, and look at the issues as far as solutions are concerned here within the area. So if we want to talk about that, we maybe consider, some folks have been trying to reinstate the boundaries of District 18, because many of the blacks and even the Hispanics, like you said, further down south aspect of it, are all moving towards the Gresham area. They're pushing them back to the Gresham area aspect of it, and so people are not talking to that. You got me? And so I'm just saying, we still got, the light is still there. People still look at it from the standpoint that Northeast Portland, but before 18, it didn't have an address. There was no address. When 18 came, there was an address. And so it's really a sad note that but I do know some people who are trying to see what can we do to get 18 back to the table. You got my point? Because it was flourishing and things were happening in a positive way. So that's a very important piece. So, okay, we talked about that particular piece, and from that point on, the other area that we want to throw on the table was that now you got 3 commissioners per district.
3
dishes, and normally the population reflects according to district. They try to get the population to balance out along that line. Now the name of the game, another thought, is that why didn't they not give consideration from the standpoint of saying, why not then divide the districts into 3 component parts, and then assign a commissioner
Well,
for
what
each
they
one
would
of those
what they
pieces.
would tell you, what they told me a lot of times, says that's too practical, Bruce. It's too practical. Yeah, and the thing is,
That's why we're talking about it.
yeah, oh yeah, because I had things happen at work, and it says, John, you're too practical. See, and this is the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Be too
Yeah.
practical. But now, in 2030, there's going to be a census. So in 2031, there's going to be a redistricting, and in 2032, the
Well, when is it?
boundaries will be different.
Well, when is this? What year is that? 23.
2030 will be the census. 2031 will be the redistricting, and 2032 the boundaries will be different.
Which would be the 32. So coming up 32.
In 2032.
2032, we're going to revisit that piece.
That's 8 years from now.
8 years, and then that could maybe talk to the whole issue of reinstating 18, right? And then choose, for instance, give the Hispanic their piece. I don't know what that boundary was all about,
Yeah.
what a legislative seat it's all about, because that's an issue. It's an issue now today because of the so-called. There's a big issue talking about getting those folks back to Mexico, kind of a deal, and all those folks on that part of the end of it. So that might be a way of solving that problem a little bit, and
Correct,
getting
yeah.
those folks who are, because you have to be a registered citizen
Yeah.
to be able to vote on that line, and there were two groups that got citizenship under, and that was under Reagan and Bush.
Yeah.
They got their citizenship. These were illegals that were here, and they went on and gave them the citizenship. So now they have basically assimilated
Yeah.
with the state. They're just regular entities, but their culture is Mexican,
Yeah.
Hispanic, if you will, and so that'd be an opportune time. With 32, you said 32, to maybe consider putting a district there
Yeah.
that could talk to the whole issue of the Hispanic district, if you will.
Yeah. And maybe the deal is they could get something on the ballot for the next deal to actually go to 12 districts for the next census.
Yeah.
And make that change so that way you know who you're voting for. You're picking your own pigeon, so to speak.
Right. But I'm talking about this other entity of race. No disrespect, because we got to settle that. I mean,
Yeah.
we've gotten to a point in life now that we have to have settled it, because we got these other cultures that are kind of demanding that they have a spot.
Right.
And they're, when you think about, because Asian Americans, for instance, that man, we got the Indians who have a major population back where they come from. And they're coming in, and you see their names being there, and they're saying something. And then you got Koreans, you got, I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And I guess the point is that we got to give them some sense of identity with the number of states we have, such that then it's America, because it is a diversion of everybody under one roof,
Right.
so to speak. And everybody like to make sure they got a piece of the action.
Yeah, and usually the deal is like with the Asians when they come here, their children's have names like Jack and Henry and Sally and Susie.
Right.
They want them to blend in.
Exactly. And even the Jewish community, they're strong here in the Portland area,
Yeah,
up in southwest Portland.
yeah,
Right. But my point is that everybody wants a piece of the action. That's okay.
yeah.
But just let's go on and do it, because otherwise we don't want any confusion. We want to get along, but the responsibility of understanding that needs to be with the various cultures too.
Yeah.
You just don't run around
The American dream is good, and we want to make sure that
Everybody
everybody has a crack at it.
Everybody, that's right. Have a crack at it and a piece of the pie,
Yeah.
and feel comfortable with that. So that's another reason why we want to talk to that. So 32 is the magic number.
Yeah,
That's-
that'll be that election will be different because the boundaries will be different.
Right.
And so some of the people that they're living on the fringe, you may find that the boundary has moved and they're out.
Right. So they need to work on that. And then, as you say, then the thing is that then you try to figure out who's going to be on the committee.
Yeah.
You see, who are the committees? And I'm sure it's going to be senatorial, and all these other folks are going to be all getting together. You got my point?
Right.
And just like with 18, you ask yourself the question, well, when they changed the boundaries, when they first created the boundaries. That's what's during the Vicatia era. When they create, it'd be interesting to know who was on the committee
Yeah.
that did this. And the same thing in 32. I mean, so as far as Mexican American and blacks and any other culture for that matter, start looking in terms of where your group is to get a piece of the action and kind of get a sense of who's going to be on those committees that'll be making those selections. And again, here we go again. We're educating you now so that you have enough time to think. It's not that long, not that far, not that long from now, far from now. So that's another very, very, very important piece. Because nowadays, people are running in areas that some folks are saying, wait a minute, what are they doing here? You got me? I mean, when you look at in all due respect, you look at the voting, you look at the folks who have filed to run for office. I mean, as you were saying, it's like a directory. Under this new form of government. Evidently, that must be the future because they're sitting up here now, voting. It's on the ballot. In various parts of the state, this new form of government, right? And so that's going to make a difference. Look like they want more people sitting at the table. See, and is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? What's going to benefit? So it's like as if to say, where are the issues? And then that one piece that we were talking about from the standpoint of what are those people going to do? And even in this form of government we're talking about right now, they're look like they're taking everything away from from people who have direct relationship with the voting public. And I'm talking about those commissioners. And they're just trying to take and then putting another group over here. In all due respect, business and entities like that, who are saying the mayor's office is going to be pretty well identified with the business community. In all due respect, they just break it down, downtown, so to speak, and the new chamber, which is progressive, the Chamber of Commerce. Remember, there used to be Chamber of Commerce. It's called now it's Progression. Now, what's it called?
Now, an interesting thing on this election, because they're using the postage stamp, because if it's stamped on the last day, they'll still count it. So they figure they'll be counting. Final count will probably be about 5 days afterwards, because then they'll be able to come through with that final count for the first pass through, and see. And if 3 of them don't end up over the rate,
right.
Then the deal is they'll have to do a second pass through and a third pass through and a fourth pass through.
So how long is that going to take?
5 pass throughs.
Well, what's the possibility? What is that like? When about? How much time will it be before we'll know specifically that these folks would know who their commissioners are?
Well, the deal is they're saying it's by computer. It won't won't take too long. But the deal is,
what's the definition of too long?
It might take them 10 days, but the deal is they're figuring the last ballot that they can count will be about 5 days after the deadline, because they're counting the postmarks on the envelope that they send in, and so so when they get it after the
a week
voting deadline.
Okay, will you agree? Well, okay, I'll give you a week. So 7 days. It'll take about 7 days before you know who your commissioners will be.
Could be, yeah.
Could be, okay. So that's when it starts. Now, I'm still saying to the employers now. I'm talking about the voting public. Those are the employers. The employers want to know, well, who's my commissioner?
Yeah.
Now,
consular is the title. Yeah.
Well, counselor, but who's one? There's 3 people there.
Yeah.
Who's my person?
Yeah.
Will they pick up my phone?
Yeah.
Or do I call all 3?
Well, a lot of things you see now, they don't have a phone number. It's all online.
Online.
You get on your computer, say.
But wasn't government that put that piece together and made those laid out the criteria for the?
Well, they want to do it online because the deal is they could ignore it or they could answer it or something. But
well, who made that decision?
Well, it's the way they're doing it because they really don't want to face you, And I think it's real important
But
for
I'm
them to
still
have
asking that question. They, who you talking? They who?
the people who you want to get a hold of. A lot of them, that's how they're doing it. They're doing it. They want it all done online, no phone calls.
Who put that piece up there like that?
They got together.
The committee? I thought they had a committee,
Yeah,
right? They had a
committee,
committee.
yeah.
And then they're the one that dotted the I's and crossed the T's on that piece.
Yeah.
But then they went through a process of changing it too.
Well, I was dealing with people online for this campaign, and I'm checking on some of them to get back to them, and they all want to do it online. No phone numbers.
No phone numbers.
No phone numbers.
Just give me the money.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
I hate to put it that way. I don't want to be so facetious about it.
It's like on my
We're gonna ask
piece
Big,
in the
we're gonna
voters.
ask Big Bob that
Yeah.
question. You know, we're gonna ask Big Bob that question in this
Well,
next round.
what I put in the voters pamphlet, this is, you get any questions, and I had my phone number and my
Right.
email address.
Right.
So I did get a few phone calls.
Right. Well, see, that's the other. But when you start thinking about the present application process to run for office, you do have a name.
Yeah.
You put your name, and then what name that you want to go under in the voters pamphlet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And a phone number.
Yeah. I used a phone number. I left a phone number.
They got a lot of other stuff, but that's, to me, as far as I'm concerned, it's not as important as whatever. You know what I'm saying? But the point is that if you, the basic criteria is that you have to be a person, have a social security number,
Yeah.
and an age,
Yeah.
and an age. That's it.
Yeah.
All the other stuff is just there. If you made it up to this particular point, and you got a name,
Well,
and how you
I
identify.
always do the phone number and the and email. And one time I was running for office, and somebody called me up, and basically the phone almost melted in my ear.
Is that right?
Oh, they were upset.
They were upset. They were upset.
They says, "Well, you like this?" They tried to explain it to them. Well, I don't like that.
But that's the right though.
Oh yeah.
I mean, wait a minute now. Don't. That's the employer.
Yeah.
You can't be fighting about the employer. That's just,
Well, I got-
if you take the job and take the money. I mean, you
Well, I had some people call, and I talked to them, and they agreed with me, but they didn't like it, and then some agreed with me and didn't know the facts. See,
Right.
So I had a lot of interesting conversations. It's just the one that melted the phone,
But that goes with the job.
Oh yeah, it goes with territory.
That's with the territory. It's not about quote picking up the check and not responding. I mean, because in all due respect, the taxpayer's paying for all this stuff, and it's costing money.
Yeah.
And people they're losing their homes behind this stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this whole issue with this donor program aspect of it. I mean, you said it funny money and all that kind of stuff, but the bottom line is the taxpayers are paying for this.
Oh yeah.
And then when you don't have enough money in the bank, guess what they do? They go back to the taxpayer and say, take money out your own personal accounts, right?
Well, I think Bob said one time that the deals they had $83 million set up for this free money campaign.
And we got to ask Bob about.
Then they had more people sign up than they thought, so the amount of money they could get went down because there's more people dipping in. And
I got to really hit his name now again. Bob made that decision. We got to find out if he knows what happened with that. With that.
Well, next time you get him up here and you can put him on a frying pan. See.
Yeah, well, that's right. He's waiting. He wants to be up there to respond to some of that kind of stuff. That's it. That's
Well,
it.
Bob's eager,
Okay. Well, all right.
Always has good wisdom.
We're at that point now. We'll hit it the next time around. Folks, take care. See you next week. Have a good one. Vote. Get out there and vote.